everybody, thanks for joining me today. That's a little riff from a tune of mine called Old Men off my solo record Dirty Power. Check it out if you get a chance. I'll put a link. The whole track is pretty fat. It's got the legend Jim Keltner, drummer legend, on there. Pretty proud of that record. Anyway, I thought I'd share a little story today about maybe some other aspects of the music biz. As a working guitar pro, whatever you call it, sometimes in your career you get asked to do certain varieties of work, that's not necessarily playing or, hired gun, session guy, whatever. There's other things, there's other ways in the music business. And over the years, I've gotten called a few times to be a guitar coach. What is a guitar coach? Well, it's kind of what the name says. You coach people to play guitar. It's a little different than guitar lessons because a coach, this is something that's primarily for an actor, for a movie. All right, so I did do this a few times. I've worked with quite a few actors and a couple of really famous ones. But one of the, definitely the most colorful, memorable one was Nick Nolte. So I thought I'd tell you a couple stories about Nick because I really enjoyed my time with him. I met Nick on this movie called My Own Love Song, and the director was Olivier Dahan. And this movie was filmed primarily in Louisiana, and it was all over Louisiana. And at that time, there were a lot of tax credits in New Orleans and in that area. So anytime somebody would come to New Orleans to film, which was a lot, I would get the call to coach. I was living there full time at the time. So anyway, I meet Nick. I go up to North Louisiana somewhere at this casino hotel. I don't remember the town, but it was pretty far away from New Orleans. And I meet Nick in the afternoon, and he was a really nice guy, and we just sit there and play guitar. And next thing I know, we're in the casino that night, and Nick's just walking around from poker table, and he's not gambling. We're just kind of walking around talking. And these people came up to us, these young girls, and this one guy came up, and this is North Louisiana. It's completely different than New Orleans. They don't even know who Nick is, and they said, we're having a Halloween party at our barn, and you guys should come. It's Halloween. And Nick just looks at me and goes, yeah, we should go. We should definitely go. And I had just met Nick, and I didn't even know what my role was outside of, I thought I'm just teaching him slide guitar. So immediately I said, Nick, I don't think that's a good idea, man. We have to be on set in the morning, and let's just go back to the hotel. So that was the immediate light bulb went off, like, this guy's kind of crazy. Like, I have to watch him. And next day his assistant told me, just kind of watch Nick because he likes to go out and do crazy shit. So we start working. We went back that night and played guitar. And actually this very Fender Champ, I had this one hooked up in Nick's hotel suite with a little distortion pedal I loaned him, and he was just in awe of it. And I showed him a, Chuck Berry lick, something simple, and he just loved it, and he played that all night. Next morning, I go to his hotel suite. It's completely flooded with water. Thank God my Champ was up on the bed, and it was on all night too. He just left it on all night. And he said, I don't know, maybe the bathtub was running all night. So the whole hotel staff is in there, like, with fans and everything. That was day one. We hadn't even started the coaching yet. I mean, I could go on and on, but we ended up down in New Orleans, and another great story was his assistant knew I was going to see the Black Crowes one night at the House of Blues in New Orleans, and I had a friend who was going to get me some VIP tickets and seats. And so Nick finds out that I'm going to see the Black Crowes. He's like, I want to go see the Black Crowes. I said, okay, well, let me make a call and see if I can get another ticket. So I didn't hear back from my contact. I only had 2 or 3 tickets. And I had, actually Del McCurry was there, and my wife and somebody else. So I just took Nick in good faith that the guy would call me back. So we're standing in the back of the alleyway, just me and Nick's smoking a cigarette. And within 5 minutes, people approach him. I mean, this is the difference between, like, somebody who's like a famous musician and a famous actor or actress. It's a whole nother level, unless you're Paul McCartney. And so Nick's smoking a cigarette, and I keep apologizing to him, going, Nick, I'm sorry, man, I'm just waiting for the guy to call me back. He's going to call me any minute, and we'll go up. And Nick keeps telling me, don't worry about it. They'll come and get me. They always do. And I'm telling Nick, well, the guy doesn't even know, I never even dropped your name. Nobody knows you're here. He goes, ah. He's smoking a cigarette. And right when he says that, the back door opens up. This guy walks out, security, sees Nick, and goes, hey, Nick, you ready to go up? And Nick, it's like out of a movie. He takes a drag off his cigarette. He goes, yeah. And he didn't need me with my little bullshit connection. And needless to say, we had a great time, and we watched the Black Crowes. And I think Luther Dickinson was playing that night. And Nick really enjoyed it because of slide. We were coaching slide. So this goes on and on for a month. I mean, I'm with him every day. And I got to hear the most amazing stories about what acting is, all the people he knew, all the movies he made. I mean, he was just dropping so many unbelievable stories. So one day he had a couple of guitars shipped from Malibu, from his house. And I go up to his suite. It's at the W Hotel on Poydras Street, New Orleans. In the morning, I go up there. Nick's in the bedroom, and he goes, go ahead and get a cup of coffee. I'll be out in a minute. And he goes, those are my guitars I just had shipped from the house. There's 3 guitar boxes, right? I open up one. He goes, go ahead and open them. I open one, and it's a beautiful custom Paul Reed Smith with just styrofoam, no case. He didn't even have a case. They were just packed with styrofoam, what do you call them, the peanuts. So Nick goes, I need to get some cases. Do you know where we could go? I said, sure. There was a place down the street at the time called International Vintage Guitars. So I knew the guy. So Nick goes, just give me a second to get ready. I'll be out in a second. And I hear him, I mean, it was literally like 10 seconds. He plops his feet on the floor. He walks out in a robe and some slippers, and he goes, I'm ready, let's roll. So I take Nick to International Vintage Guitar, and he's in a robe and slippers, and he's got these crazy reading glasses on that one of them's all cracked. And we walk in, and the owner sees me, and he goes, hey, Shane, and before he finishes, he sees Nick, he goes, oh, man. So I said, Nick needs a couple cases, so we get Nick some cases. And in the meantime, there's this beautiful, I think it was a 335 for sale. It was like 20 grand or something. And Nick goes, Dickey Betts had one of those. And I said, oh yeah? And then Nick starts this story. I made this picture with Dickey Betts called Return to Macon County. And there's a scene where Dickey and I, we were together, but nobody knows this, but Dickey and I were tripping on acid. And there's this car chase scene, and Dickey goes, hey, when you film that scene, can I lay in the back seat while you do it? And Nick said, sure. So nobody even knows that Dickey Betts was laying in the back seat while they filmed this chase scene.
Got it! Better hit the deck!
It's just crazy shit like that. And so another night, I had this, it was sort of a drunk impulse buy. I was up on eBay one night looking, and I see this Les Paul. It was a studio, I believe. I've never actually, that's the only Les Paul I ever owned. I don't even own a Les Paul, except if you call this a Les Paul. It says Les Paul. And so I ended up with this Les Paul. I didn't really like it. I show up to Nick and I's session, and Nick sees it immediately. He goes, wow, that's a great guitar. And I said, I'm thinking about selling it. I'm not really bonding with it. And Nick goes, well, how much do you want for it? And I said, well, I paid $1,500 for it. I'll sell it to you for $15. And Nick goes, really? If somebody else would try to sell it to me, they'd charge $3,000. I said, well, Nick, it's what it's worth, $1,500. So he goes, I'll pay you tonight. I said, it's okay, So we went to this place called Le Bon Temps on Magazine Street, New Orleans, and this brass band was playing. And Nick goes, I'll bring your money tonight. He kept telling me, I said, it's okay, Nick. I'm on the payroll. I'll get the money. It's fine. Nick shows up. He's standing in a trench coat by himself in the corner, and these guys are playing pool, just kind of looking at him. And I walk in and see Nick, and he hands me 15 Visa Travelers checks, or whatever they were, American Express Travelers checks, all signed Nick Nolte, and they were all in $100 denominations. That's how he paid me for the guitar. And a couple of days later, I go in the bank, and the woman was like looking at it going, I said, is there a problem? She goes, no. it's just nobody ever uses these anymore. So I think I still have one. Is there any other story? There's a lot of other stories. But Nick was such a great guy. I really, really enjoyed working with him. I mean, I really could see how he's such a brilliant actor, because he would work on his craft all the time, and all that sort of craziness comes out because, I mean crazy in a good way. I mean, he would rehearse his lines with a tape recorder, and I would watch him do it, and I'd go, wow, this guy's, even though he's a really famous actor and he's worth a lot of money or whatever, he's still focused on the craft, you know? And we spent a lot of time talking about that. He invited me to his house. I used to give him guitar lessons on Skype. I kind of lost touch with him. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but I still hope he's doing okay. And I'm sure I'm missing some of the other stories. But Nick told me that a lot of his friends, Sam Shepard, who else? He named all these really famous people. That was way out of my strata of, you know, connections, and they were all legends. And he said they were all frustrated musicians, or wanted to be musicians, and actors loved musicians, and there were a lot of similarities. So that's, I think, why we bonded. I took him to the Maple Leaf in New Orleans to see Rebirth Brass Band, and I said, Nick, it's going to be a wall of people. It's a small club, but it gets packed on a Monday, Tuesday night for Rebirth Brass Band. But I said, you got to do it. And I said, as soon as it gets weird, you tell me, we're out. He goes, okay. So we're standing in the club, and it's just people wall, and everybody's vibing off this brass band. If you haven't experienced it, you got to do it if you're in New Orleans. And this wall of brass, this hard funk, and I saw his face, like, you know, and we were really enjoying it for about 20 minutes. And then it just got kind of crazy, and Nick goes, it's too much. I said, let's go. So we left. And we just rode around and talked about things, you know, and I really enjoyed it. He recommended that I work with Forest Whitaker on the same film, so I did work with Forest as well, who was a really sweet guy, a pro. I had to teach him from scratch a Bob Dylan tune that I think Mike Campbell played on the soundtrack, and it had a lot of difficult chords, minor 7, flat 5, 2 5s, and he worked on it. We worked for about a month every afternoon for a little bit, and Forrest nailed the scene. He actually played it on camera. Really pro, and I ended up helping him get his daughter a guitar once. I think for Christmas he wanted a recommendation. But those are some of the stories some of the really highlights that a working guitar player you might get asked to do. And it's kind of fun, and it involved maybe 20% playing and 80% hang and knowledge of how to teach somebody and things like that. And it was really fulfilling at the end when they filmed the scene. I was there, and the director, Olivier Dahan, asked me to sit next to him in the director's chair and watch it and let me know about the angle, you know, let him know, and any suggestions, this, does that look real, does that. So if you watch it, you'll see Nick, you know, playing. I don't remember how much they actually used, but it was a lot of fun. And I actually got a guitar consultant credit. So there you go. If you like this story, hit like, subscribe, notifications. See you next time. Shane Theriot out.